Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Weekly Sting. I'm your host, Joe Hutzler. We've got a jam-packed show today, 37 conference championships between the three coaches that are coming up next. But before we get to our first guest, let's remind you of our social media accounts to let you know exactly how you can follow along with the action this weekend. It is ODAC tournament weekend, and there you see on your screen all of our social media accounts that you can know exactly what is going on as it happens. All four teams in action this weekend. And our first team that we're going to talk about is our first guest, head coach Enza Steele of field hockey. Coach, thank you for coming on the show. Let's dive right into Friday night, taking on Roanoke in the semifinals, a team you've already faced this season. What have you talked to your team about in terms of not necessarily taking stuff away from the first meeting against Roanoke, but making sure that they're prepared after what has been a pretty long layoff between games?
Well, I think the first thing is that we tell the team that what we've done before no longer exists. You have to play tomorrow, and you have to play extremely well. We have a very talented team, and if we play to our potential, it's going to have to be a pretty amazing group to beat us. So I think we need to work on our strengths. We know some things that Roanoke does, and we're ready for those things. We just have to play to our fullest potential.
Now you mentioned the talent on your team, and one thing that I always go back to when we're broadcasting a game is the excitement you had in your voice and in your eye when you talked about Jackie Laro before the season even started. Has she exceeded those expectations that you had for her as a freshman?
I think she has. I think she has developed. Had a little bit of an injury that set her back, and setting Jackie back, and she has 27 goals this season, so I'm pretty excited. I knew she had speed and quickness, and I knew that we would teach her to be a scorer. And with Nikki Simpao behind her with extraordinary vision, feeding her the ball, it made life very easy for Jackie.
What has it been like for you knowing that you have that type of depth up front and even in your midfield area? Because even if you try and game plan against Simpao and Laro, you still have Eldridge, you still have Copeman, you still have Elliott. How easy does that make a coach's life?
Oh, I think for us it's pretty awesome. We've been excited for the past year knowing this recruiting class is coming in. I mean, you look at Copeman and you look at Elliott, and they're probably two of the fastest players in the country, not just in the ODAC. And what they do is unbelievable. So a team has to look out for four different people, and it's really hard. If it's just one or two, they can usually mark you out. But when you have more than two that are big guns, it's really tough.
Now you guys are in pursuit of what would be the 19th ODAC championship in the program. For you going through all of that, the changing of the times and just the world is different and the schools are different and all of that from when it first started, what has stayed the same? What core values and principles were taught from the first one and still being used now?
Well, I think the number one thing is fundamentals. Skills have developed. As a coach, you have to advance with new technology, new sticks, what skills are done and when and appropriately. And I'm a very big fundamentalist. And, the number one thing is you have to have ball control, and you have to learn how to eliminate your opponent, and you have to learn how to take the ball away from your opponent. And I think we do a really good job of giving numerous scenarios, and our players are ready for a lot of different things.
Now this weekend, you will plan to play two games on AstroTurf Field, which you've played on multiple times this season. Was that a large part of the reason for going to Liberty and playing on that field? Not just maybe even for WNL, but teams you may face in the NCAA tournament?
Well, the NCAA tournament, you find there are lots of teams, especially from the north, that all play on AstroTurf. You just plow the field, you're ready to play. It's a faster game, it's a faster pace. If you're not used to it, the ball runs away from you. You'll be chasing the ball all day long if you don't know how to adjust to the pace of the game. So I think that Liberty and us have been an awesome partnership. We thank them so much for allowing us the opportunity to practice there and develop our skills on the AstroTurf. And I think it can only benefit us, and it allows us to showcase our speed as well.
Last thing I'll ask you really quickly is just knowing that the season obviously isn't over, but is there something you've really enjoyed a lot about this particular team, the 2017 group, as the course of the season has played itself out. What's been your favorite thing about the group?
Well, I think in general we've been extremely close. You know, we have a mutual trust and respect for one another. We have fun. I mean, that's one of the key things that I focus on. You know, there's a point in time to be serious, but if you're not having fun playing, your heart's just not into it. And I think I do an excellent job of making things very fun. You know, sometimes they just really wonder where I come from and where my humor comes from, but that's just part of showing that you are humanistic, and players need to know that.
Well, it has worked out in the past, and we certainly think it will, and hope that it does this weekend at Washington and Lee. Coach, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And good luck this weekend.
All right, thanks.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, women's soccer coach Todd Olsen on the Weekly Stand. And we welcome you back to the Weekly Sting. I'm your host, Joe Hutzler, and before we get to our next guest, we have two things to get to on the agenda. The first being what we're calling Bald for Baldricks. That's right, this beautiful lock of hair is going to be gone this time tomorrow. When you wake up on Saturday morning, it will all be gone because I'm trying to help St. Baldrick's in their fight against childhood cancer by shaving my head, much like some previous women's soccer players have done in the past as well, to raise awareness for a really, really tremendous cause. Happy to do it and really anxious to have that done. As you saw on your screen, you can donate to my portion of it by going to stbaldricks.org and typing in my name. It'll come up to donate page. All I'm asking for is $200. We're already 25% there, so not much more to go. Now, also, we have to get to our Hornet trivia question. And this week, we're talking about women's soccer. We're asking you a question as they advance to the semifinals this weekend. When was the last time it did not make the ODAC semifinals? And I'm not sure if my guest knows that question or not, but we're going to hold his tongue until the next segment because our next guest is Todd Olsen of women's soccer. Coach, thank you for coming on the show. You don't have to answer it, but do you know the answer to that?
I do not know.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, you can watch the show later and find out.
Find the answer.
Let's go to the most recent thing that happened, which was last night, a 3-2 win, comeback fashion against Shenandoah. Not at all what most people anticipated for the game to take shape in, but I think one of the most impressive things, and you mentioned it in the post-game huddle, is that yes, it wasn't the expected narrative, but the girls came back and fought through and refused to lose.
Yeah, we've been talking about this and trying to ingrain this in their thought process. And this started, this year we've had fun with the 1997 team and been talking about them quite a bit. And they were recently inducted as a team of distinction in the Hall of Fame. And they sort of started this whole idea of refusing to lose. And we've been pushing that ever since, and that's been a big part of our culture. And this team, for a little while, I didn't know if they had it because it's very young. We graduated 7 seniors last year that had started in every game for about 4 years. And so these guys are new. They're all starting. This is their first tournament experience. And last night the nerves showed and we could see it. But the great part was they've started to, be part of that and understand the whole concept of refusing to lose. You just go out there and you never stop playing. And you play like it's your last day that you're ever going to play soccer. And I thought they did that. I was proud of them for how they came back.
Still a lot left in the season, but when you look at the growth of this team, I've noticed that even from the time that certain players have been freshmen and coming up. Has that been maybe the most fun part about the team, is watching Caitlin Mertens, Kennedy Jackie-Beck, those girls that have always been in a shell come out of that?
Yeah, we were excited because those kids went to, Caitlin went to Africa with me this summer, and we really saw her emerge. And now she's come out of her shell. She was a pretty quiet person, and now she'll dance at practice, and she's talking at practice, and you're starting to see that reflect on her play on the field. She's playing with just a lot more confidence. She's just a really good player. She's scoring a lot of goals. And then Kennedy as well. And Kennedy was one of those, she came out pretty nervous last night, and we had a conversation at halftime about, you've got to get past that, because there's going to be times in your life for job interviews, for your first job, where you've got to show up and you can't sort of panic. And so that was our conversation a little bit. And I felt like she overcame. And last night I told her at halftime, I sort of went after her a little bit. And then after the game, I told the team that this was my MVP, because here's a player that was really shaken and pretty emotional at halftime. And she could have gone either way. She could have just folded up and stopped, but instead she came out and played like crazy. Yeah. And she set up the first goal, she set up the third goal, and she overcame nerves, which is a really amazing thing for a player to do within a game. So for 45 minutes to almost be incapacitated, and then for a final 45 minutes just to rise above and be one of the best players on the field, all in the course of 90 minutes. And I thought that was huge. And I thought that growth for our team is huge, because people saw that. They saw, hey, this is one of our best players. She's nervous, she's struggling, but she was able to overcome. And I think that is a really great message for our team, for women in general, that they can do this stuff, and they're pretty powerful people.
100%.
So she
absolutely.
did. So I was proud of her.
I want to go to a specific moment in that game, first 4 minutes of the game. Shenandoah scores in a really wacky way of doing it. I'm always interested, because I've never played soccer, never coached soccer, but you can't call a timeout and regroup your team. So how do you do that from the sidelines, make sure that they stay composed?
I really wanted to call a timeout. I mean, if I could have called a timeout, I would have. That's one of those things they just got to play through. And the good news with this team, and this isn't typical of our teams, is typically we don't get behind. We've had teams that we jump out, and we're the team that's doing that. In our last 4 games, we've started from behind. We've given up a goal in the first half in each of the last 4 games, and they've ended up winning 2 of those, which is great. And that's a really important step for this team, because for you to come from behind, and then to do it in this game, particularly yesterday, was so gratifying for me, is they did it twice.
Right.
Like that second time when they scored, I thought, and we got behind for a second time, I went, man, I don't know. And I'm thinking to myself, this might be it. I don't know if they can pull themselves out twice. And they did it. And they kept playing hard. And I think part of that was the experience of playing from behind. Sometimes you got to be able to do that. And if you've never there, like if you have an undefeated season and you're never behind and you're beating everybody by 3-0, when you get into a game like that, you're not equipped. And I felt like we're equipped. We've been behind. They've learned that, hey, if we persevere, if we keep pushing, that, our attack is strong enough that we're going to punch in some goals. And they did it last night. So I thought it was awesome. I mean, there's just some fantastic takeaways from that game. Even, I've been talking about this team a little bit, because we're losing just 2 seniors.
Right.
And we've been talking about this is a 40-game team. Usually you have one season, 20 games, but this is a 40-game team. This team has 40 games to figure it out. And so whatever happens going forward, like we learned so much yesterday about this team, and they learned about who they are. And so this is going to carry over to next year, to that second part of our 40-year team, or 40-game team, because it's a 2-year team. Because a lot of these guys next year are going to be seniors. They'll have a whole year under their belt. They'll have played in some big games. They'll have won some games they shouldn't have. They have lost some games they shouldn't have. And so I think those things all go into, what makes a championship team. So I'm excited about what we do this year, and I'm certainly not hoping this season ends at any time.
Of course
but this is I think this is a work in progress, and these guys are going to be pretty special over these, 25 more games that they're going to have to play.
Well, now you move on to the semifinals against Roanoke. That's Saturday at 4 o'clock. Championship game would be on Sunday at 2 p.m. 2 questions related to that. The first being, traveling to Virginia Wesleyan, it's never fun for anybody to go that long. You've already made a couple long trips this year. That has been somewhat of a struggle in the first part of the year. How can you kind of game plan against that?
We're spinning this like crazy. This has been an away season. We've not been home very much. In fact, we played poorly at home, I think. We've lost 2 of our 3 games we've lost have been at home, which is pretty much unheard of for one of our teams. And so we're an away team this year, and we're a travel team. We've done it. We've gone all over the place. We've started off poorly. We've started off well. We've lost. We've won. And so I'm spinning this like crazy. This is what we do. We travel, and we've been saying we'll play anybody, any place, anytime, and we don't care because we think we're going to be the best team. And so I don't need to play it on Schellenberger Field. We can go down and do the same thing that we'd accomplish on Schellenberger at Virginia Wesleyan's Field. And sometimes it might even be a little bit more gratifying to go down there and take care of them there. And one of the things, playing home, there's a little bit added pressure, you know, and when you're playing we played in enough semifinal finals at home, and there's extra pressure there because there's an expectation that you're going to win because you're at home. And then if you lose that semifinal game, then the next day you got to watch 2 other teams play on your field.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen, and that is the worst feeling. I mean, there's not a worse feeling to see 2 teams playing for a championship on your field, and when you're sitting at home because you've just been defeated. So I think in a way it takes some pressure off our team, and it's good because this team needs less pressure because we built up a lot for them and with expectations. So I think anything we can do, and if we can say that we're just a really good traveling team, and I think I've convinced them that now, and so there's been enough brainwashing that I think we're in good shape.
So, we'll find out.
I'm not least concerned where we're playing. That was the least important part of the equation. We just want to keep playing.
Good. Yeah. So, as long as you're still playing, you have a chance. Good. Last thing I'll get to really quickly is, in relation to that, what's the most dangerous part about this team? What makes you have so much belief in what they're able to do?
I think we could score at any time. I mean, we've been shut out twice, and then the rest of the games we haven't been, obviously. And the last 2 games we've scored 8 goals, and that's a lot of goals as you're ending the season. And even last night, it doesn't seem like it, but we scored 3 goals in the second half, and that's a lot of goals in a half in a playoff competition. So, I mean, I just think that at any time we are so dangerous that we can score at any time. And, and I felt like Shenandoah had that. It was a bit of a track meet. And, and going forward, I'm not sure that we're going to face the same kind of forwards that we faced last night. I was most nervous about that game because I think their 2 forwards are some of the best forwards I've ever seen at Division III. And, if they'd had some support in the back, it would have been a different game. But I just think our ability to finish. And then the other thing is Emily Maxwell is an absolute wild card. I mean, she is the difference maker. She now is playing at the end of her career. She knows it. She knows that she has very few games left. We've been talking about we're in an 8-game season. We call it the second season. We finished our regular season. Now there's 8 games possible to play. There's 3 in the ODAC and 5 to get to a national championship and win a national championship. And so she knows now after last night she's down to 7 games. And I saw some intensity and some warrior come out of her last night.
Yes.
That I've been watching it grow for 4 years, and now it's at the height. And her dad's a general in the Marines, and you're starting to see that Marine attitude come out, and that fighting to the end and fighting for your sisters and not leaving anybody out there. And Emily sort of is starting to just do that, and people are going to follow that, and they want to win for her so badly. And when she shows how badly she wants to win, so I think she's our wild card. I'd take Emily Maxwell over about anybody in the country right now.
That makes 2 of us.
And I'm glad she's on my team.
Yes, so are we.
I think with her we always have a chance.
Well, we think you do as this weekend as well, no doubt about that, and we'll be there to cover it as much as we possibly can, and look forward to it, Coach.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll be right back with Jim Sprecher of Cross Country, Track, and Field.
All right, cool.
Renegades, you should take a seat, save your energy. I try to heal the guys with a band-aid. In a time of need, you call your enemies. I landed in a visa and I need a visa. I ain't playing with you, this no mama me. I need a hottie-toddy with a body, yeah. I just spit the knowledge, then I'm out of here. That's what they are when we come around. This is your time when we want it now. How big is your army? $100. If you want the rain, then we coming down.
Welcome back to the Weekly Sting. I'm your host, Joe Hutzler. And before we get to our third guest, as we always do, we answer the Hornet trivia question. And here it is. We asked you in the last segment, when was the last time that women's soccer did not make the ODAC semifinals? They are moving on again to the ODAC semifinals. It was 2006. They've won 8 of the next 10 ODAC titles since then. Always a good problem when the head coach doesn't know the answer to that question. And of course, now he does. And we're going to bring in someone else who knows a lot about winning. That is Mr. Jim Sprecher, Director of Cross Country and Track and Field. Coach, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
So let's get a quick update, because you've been here as long as I've been here. We're both trying to build programs, not the same type of program, but still in that same kind of mode. What do you think, based off of the most recent cross-country championship, which was very well in terms of results, women finishing second, men finishing third, Hunter Frizzell with the Rookie of the Meet to go along with everything else. How do you think it's progressed so far? Do you feel like you have reached or exceeded your expectations?
Well, I think we're just right on task at this point. We came in here with some big shoes to fill, coming into a program that's been highly successful. And during the rebuilding phase, I think that we're putting it on a good foundation. The kids are not just excelling on the track and on the cross-country course, but also in the classroom. The program continues to grow, the popularity of the sport. We've gone basically from 30-something athletes to close to 70 athletes in just 2 years. Recruiting is just by leaps and bounds. Already in the first couple months of this school year, we've already had 50 kids on campus to visit. So, and then more importantly, the so-called buy-in of the philosophy is really starting to show now, and the kids have really embraced the lifestyle that's required to excel in a sport like ours.
What has been, in your mind, the thing that has sold so many kids to come here and want to be a part of your cross-country or track and field program? And 50 kids already is a lot. So what is the thing drawing them to this program?
Well, there's an excitement. The kids want to be part of something that's growing and getting better. We've made no bones about it that we're positioning this program to be one of the best programs in the country, and people like that type of challenge. I think it's also our philosophy, our holistic philosophy of mind, body, and spirit, where we're developing the entire person while they're here. I know the parents really like to hear that and like the results that they're seeing from our, that we've made since we've been here. And just again, it's just a great time to be a part of this athletic department and this college campus. There's so much positive energy going on right now that's infectious for everyone.
And the most important thing for the parents is that they follow through on that holistic idea. It's not just you saying it, you guys actually keep that. And one thing I'll ask you in relation to that before we get to the fun part, because there's a fun part of this segment, is your assistant coaches. So you're bringing in more athletes. You just mentioned going from 30 up to the high 70s in just a few years. You're the director of cross country and track and field, but without the assistants, it's really tough to keep track of all of those students. Talk to me a little bit about not just the ability to have a body there, but the experience of those bodies that are helping you.
Oh, no doubt. And the great thing about all of our assistant coaches, I have a history with them. Jake Reed, who coaches our distance and cross country program, was a former athlete of mine, and he's done a tremendous job, and the results have shown that. Both our GAs, Evan Truman, who was an NCAA All-American for us last year, as well as Terry Lee, are both recent graduates of the program, and so they've lived the lifestyle. They know exactly what's expected, and it means a lot to me that they want to stay around and see this program go to even to another level. And so, without a doubt, there's one person can never do it. I've always been good at delegating responsibilities, creating ownership and pride within our program, and we just have the personnel in place that have taken those challenges and taken it to a whole nother level for us.
Well, you and I should meet and get some one-on-one time about that delegating thing. That's a tough thing to do, and certainly a lot of credit to you and your staff for that. All right, let's move on to the fun part of this segment. Reach down here, get some cards. We're not going to play cards. I'm terrible at cards, but these cards I can handle. So I have 2 stacks of cards, random cards, with one word on it. And I haven't seen these, and you haven't seen these, right? You haven't seen these,
no.
Have you? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to get rid of one just for transparency. One from each stack. Okay? Here's your cards. Here are my cards. Now, here's what we do with those. This is the random word game. I know it's a really catchy title. Thanks, producer. What we're going to do with these is we're going to try and fill in a conversation with these random words and try to make it go as seamless as possible. And we're basically starting over the interview. All right. So we're gonna try something new. Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. You sure? You don't look ready.
We'll fake it.
All right. Here we go. Fake it till you make it. All right. So let's start the interview over again. Now, with track and field and cross country, we know you run a lot, but nutrition is always a big deal as well. I'm interested to know, like, we know what's good for you, but things that are bad for you, like sauces, so buttermilk ranch, mayonnaise, those fattening things like that. I mean, how do you keep your athletes from staying away from those nasty things?
Well, I will say this: our kids actually are pretty good at hitting home runs. They know exactly what they need to put in their system to be, making sure that they are replenishing what they're losing, as well as energy levels and just dietary needs that are necessary for being a very active athlete.
So, see, he did a great job. He threw the random word in there, but he still gave me some information because I have no idea what word was the right word there. Let's move on and talk about something that's not Lynchburg related. Let's talk about Earth and Earth's core and how that affects the world. Do you know anything about, like, the crust of the Earth and earthquakes and stuff like that? As I'm reaching here, I have no idea. I have no idea where to go now.
Well, I will say this: in the center of the world, of the Earth, there's magma, and this magma vapes up to the surface.
True.
And when that happens, then that creates volcanoes, which then can create islands and so on.
Wow. Okay. See, he does know his stuff about science. Okay. I have to use this. Okay, this is perfect. Actually, you mentioned earthquakes. You mentioned volcanoes. We haven't mentioned hurricanes yet, and hurricanes in the both weather form and the school form. Miami, the U. They're doing really well right now. I'm not sure how you feel about football, or who your teams are, but you're from a coastal area, knowing how big it is to have Miami back in the fold. What do you think about their progress?
Well, my last two words are perfect. I think Miami has been a program, the U, as we know, it's been documented about the excess they had there, and Gucci and all the other brands that were associated with that program, and also some of the bad things that came with that, some of the criminal elements that was associated with that. But it is very refreshing to see a program with a rich tradition like Miami, a guy like Mark Richt, who is just a fantastic coach, who left a great program at Georgia to go down there and continue that success. And I'm looking forward to Saturday night at 8 o'clock and watching Miami and Virginia Tech on TV.
You just did a plug for ABC or whoever it was. That was really, really good. Hey, you know what? I think whoever made these cards, if Miami wins, they should have a big bowl of Fluffernutter and just eat it up. I don't know. I don't know how we get from the U to the Fluffernutter, but that's a part of the random word game. It is what it is. Coach, thanks for doing that. I know that's not part of the coaching world, but break the ice a little bit and talk about some other things. And congratulations on the progress you guys have made so far. It's been really awesome to watch it happen. 2 meets before the end of the semester for indoor track and field coming up soon. So wish you the best of luck in that as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you same time, possibly same place next week. Remember, it's a great day to be a Hornet. And we are One Nation.